Hello and welcome to the DVD Graveyard. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at The Beyond from 1981, directed by Lucio Fulci. And this is definitely one of Fulci's films that I've really been waiting to talk about and very excited to talk about. I haven't done many Fulci movies, but Fulci is one of my favorite Italian directors, most definitely up there with Dario Argento and Mario Bava, as well as Umberto Lenzi is another one that I'm a big fan of. And it's kind of a shame I haven't really talked about many Fulci movies. I think the last one that I actually covered, it might have been the only one that I've covered off the top of my head, was City of the Living Dead, also known as The Gates of Hell. And that's kind of why I'm doing this one, is because, City of the Living Dead is the first in a very loose trilogy of films. So it is Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. So, of course, we start out with City of the Living Dead from 1980. And then the next one would be The Beyond, which we're talking about today. And then the third and final installment in that is House by the Cemetery. And they are a trilogy in a very loose way, much like Argento has his Animals trilogy or the Three Mothers trilogy with Suspiria and Inferno. And Mother of Tears, I think, is the third one. Or one that people might be more familiar with is like John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. That's more of sort of a well-known one. So this movie, I've got to say without a doubt, is probably, I don't want to say it's Fulci's most kind of nonsensical plot, because there is a lot of shit in this movie that really doesn't really make any sense. And to be honest with you, it's really kind of even hard to explain this movie and really kind of talk about what this movie's about, because it has a very strange, almost dreamlike, illogical plot. But that's kind of part of the theme of this movie. But at the same time, this movie has some of the best Fulci gore. I mean, Fulci was always known for having some really great gore effects and some really extreme gore, really in all of his movies. But I would have to say that this is, if it's not my favorite Fulci movie, it's definitely up there. I'd like to actually do a Fulci ranking video, much like I did the John Carpenter, my favorite John Carpenter films, because this one is definitely going to be on that list. I love this movie. I know that it has kind of a cult following now, but it's one that, of course, it is, obviously it's an Italian film, so it didn't really get a lot of recognition, back in 1981 whenever this came out. I actually don't think it even released in the United States until like 83, I think, and even whenever it released in like the UK and stuff like that, it was labeled a video nasty almost immediately, because again, we get some really great, just over the top, almost nonsensical gore in this film. And so if you are a gore hound, and you like Fulci style gore and mutilation and stuff like that, you will absolutely love this movie. So, like I said just a minute ago, this movie came out in 1981. I have right here it's just the Grindhouse releasing a DVD version. I got this a couple of years ago, and I got it for a really, really decent price. It has the unrated director's cut on it. Of course, there is a Blu-ray of this movie now that you can pick up, that Grindhouse did, but I'm perfectly fine with just my DVD version. I'm not crazy about the cover art that they chose for it, but I mean, it's fine. It's fine for what it is. I really liked some of these Grindhouse releases. So I have a few, but anyway, I will read the back of this before I kind of get further into the movie. So at the top it says, "When the gates of hell are opened, the dead will walk the earth." From legendary Italian horror master Lucio Fulci comes the ultimate classic of supernatural terror. A remote and cursed hotel built over one of the 7 gateways to hell becomes a yawning, malevolent abyss that begins devouring both the bodies and the souls of all who enter in a graphic frenzy of gore, crucifixions, chunk blowing, chain whippings, eyeball impalements, sulfuric acid meltdowns, flesh-eating tarantulas, throat-shredding demon dogs, and ravenous, bloodthirsty zombies. The Beyond is a towering achievement in hair-raising, mind-bending cinematic terror. So that's funny that they gave you all like the stuff on the back, the sulfuric acid meltdowns and the eyeball impalements, because, nobody does eye gore, quite like Lucio Fulci did. So, like I said earlier, this is the second film in the Apocalypse trilogy, and really the only kind of connection that these movies have is they have sort of a similar theme, I guess you could say, and all of them really kind of center around sort of the idea of hell kind of, you know, the veil between hell and our world kind of being blurred, and hell kind of leaking into our world. And most of these kind of revolve around zombies. There are zombies in City of the Living Dead and this one, and technically there is a zombie in House by the Cemetery, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it, because I look forward to talking about that one. So, you know, and I love Fulci zombies. You know, nobody did zombies quite like I love Italian zombies. Period. Like, I mean, I love just the look of them. They're very slow in this movie. And this is not, I don't want anybody to think that this is a zombie movie, because it's really not. This is just I usually describe this as a supernatural film with zombies, to be honest with you. So, you know, it's not really a zombie film. And the only other real connection that these movies all have together is Catriona MacColl. She is in all three of these films playing different roles. She's also credited as Catherine MacColl. But she's really kind of the mainstay of this series. Alongside her, Lucio Fulci actually does have a cameo in this movie, which he usually does have cameos in his films, much like Stanley, you know. But we also get David Warbeck, who plays John, and I think Cynthia Monreale, I think is how you say her name. She plays Emily, who is kind of the central central to this plot. She's actually the girl on the cover, the blind girl. And so this movie, again, I'm not going to, you know, dig too deep into it, because, again, it's really kind of hard to explain, like, really kind of what is going on in this movie. Like, you really kind of have to just watch it, you know, and observe and kind of take away what you will from it, because it's very surreal, and it's very kind of, like I said, the plot is almost kind of nonsensical, and it kind of just goes all over the place. And it's very, like, it's basically like one gore set piece and then some quiet time that leads up to another gore set piece and another gore set piece, you know, and so on and so forth. Unlike, you know, something like City of the Living Dead, where we had, again, Catriona MacColl's character and whoever the guy was in that movie, I can't even remember his name, but they were looking for this priest, you know, the town where this priest had, you know, hung himself, because they're trying to close one of the gates of hell. So, you know, that one kind of had a little bit more of a streamlined plot. And so, you know, in this one, pretty much what we get in this one is at the very beginning, we have this excellent opening sequence, which takes place in like 1927, I think, and it's at this hotel, and basically this guy is nailed to the wall, and he has like tar or something like that dumped all over him, and he's basically just tortured, and he's whipped with a chain and beaten, and we get some really good gore effects in this opening sequence. And I think, you know, he is like a warlock, and he's basically been practicing like black magic in this hotel. And then, of course, we fast forward to present day, which, you know, is 1981. And that's when we meet Liza, you know, Catriona MacColl's character. And she basically, I think she has inherited this hotel is what's going on. And she's kind of fixing it up, you know, because she's going to sort of run the place. And just really weird shit kind of starts to happen around the hotel. And like this body of this guy who was tortured at the beginning, he ends up showing up, you know, just kind of randomly throughout the movie inside the house, and there's just kind of this weird stuff that's sort of going on in the basement, which is flooded, and they all kind of keep leading back, like everything kind of keeps leading back to this basement where this thing happened, you know, in 1927. And people start kind of getting killed off around the house, and weird things start to kind of happen again around the house. And at this hospital where John works, Dr. John McCabe, who's David Warbeck, you know, it's just some weird stuff is going on, like, you know, around, just kind of surrounding Liza, like, you know, a lot of stuff. But it's really not centrally focused on her. Like, she sort of just kind of, like, I feel like each character really kind of gets their own bit in the movie, and then of course she meets Emily in this great scene that is so trippy and dreamlike, where like I'm sure everyone's seen the famous shot of Lucio Fulci sitting on this long, you know, highway type bridge, and he's sitting on that, you know, that's a scene, that's a set piece from this movie. And of course, Liza, that's where she meets Emily, and Emily is blind, and she's kind of being very cryptic and vague, and she has her seeing eye dog, and she ends up coming back to the hotel with Liza, and just kind of shit just starts going crazy. Again, people just kind of start dying around them. Zombies just kind of happen. They just kind of come out of nowhere again at this hospital. And basically what happens is, sort of towards the end of this movie, basically what's going on is they cannot really escape hell, more or less. Like, no matter where they go, like they end up being at this hospital, and I remember they go down these stairs at the hospital, and it just leads them back to the basement of this house, and they're kind of in this void, and then of course they go blind, and it's this whole kind of it's very trippy, very surreal, very odd. The plot is very just kind of all over the place, so it's kind of hard to break down. And like I said, honestly, it's just kind of like you're kind of moving through this movie to just each set piece. I'm sure somebody could explain it a lot better than I could, but you're kind of moving between gore scenes, which I think is really that's the way that I kind of describe it. And my God, do we get some excellent gore in this movie and some excellent kills. So just like it said on the back, the scene where there's this scene where this lady falls down and basically at the hospital and knocks over this jar of sulfuric acid, and it just dumps all over her face, and we just get this great slow sort of dissolve of this woman's face, and she just dies and just melts down on the ground. It's super cool. I love that scene. Or there's another scene, probably my favorite scene in the whole film is whenever there's a guy, I can't remember who it is in this movie off the top of my head. He goes to this library to like look up something about this hotel, and he's basically trying to get like this sort of like layout of the hotel, and he finds out that the hotel is like much bigger than what it actually is, and it's just kind of this weird thing, and the guy falls down, and just like friggin' tarantulas just come out of nowhere and just literally start eating this guy to pieces. And I mean, I'm not really afraid of spiders, especially tarantulas. Like, tarantulas don't really bother me, but that scene really freaks me out. Like, I mean, it just makes me really uncomfortable because the guy like breaks his neck, and he's paralyzed and he can't move. And these little tarantulas, they used real tarantulas and of course fake tarantulas, and the fake ones are very, very noticeable. So I mean, if that's something that kind of takes you out of the movie, I can understand that, because again, they look very fake, but that's part of the thing that I love about it. And they literally just chew this guy's face to pieces. Like, even so far as like there's a zoom in shot on his tongue where the tarantula's fangs go into the guy's tongue. So I mean, again, excellent kills in this movie. I mean, and of course we get the lovely Fulci style zombies. I love the look of the zombies in this movie. They don't really have a lot to do. They're just kind of there. Of course, like it said on the back, when the gates of hell are opened, the dead will walk the earth. So that, of course, when the zombies arrive, that signifies that the gates of hell have opened up, and these zombies are just kind of attacking them around the hospital. And of course, we get some silly kind of scenes where, like, in all these kind of old zombie movies where the guy figures out he can shoot him in the head, but for like the next 7 zombies he's still shooting them in the fucking stomach for no reason, apparently. I've always thought that was really odd, and that's something that I found kind of goofy about this movie, but at the same time, again, it just adds to the charm, and we just get this extra little bit of gore in there, and it's just it's fun. It's a good time. And all of this is, has this fantastic score behind it. Like, this is also just another thing I wanted to note, is that the score in this movie is incredible. Like, I mean, I love the music. It's so good. It was done by Fabio Frizzi, Walter Cyr, Mitch Yuspe, I think is, and Ira Yuspe, I think is how you say that, or Yuspe, or however you say that. I don't want to say it wrong. I probably already did, but the music in this is really good. It just has that really nice vibe that fits this movie really well. And I mean, and at the same time, I really hope, whoever watches this likes the main score, because you're going to hear it a lot. You're going to hear it all the time. Like, there's this one particular theme that plays during like every death sequence. And, it happens a lot, but I love it. I love the music in this. I think it's fantastic. I think it fits the vibe. The main theme of this movie is kind of, I wouldn't even say it's really the main theme. There's just this little piano piece that you get in the movie that's really creepy to me. Like there's a scene with Emily playing it on the piano, so it's very creepy. It's very discordant, I think is the word I'm looking for there. So it's very spooky, and again fits the vibe. And just like I said earlier, I love this movie takes place in Louisiana, and I love Southern Gothic type stuff. Like I love the hotel, this old, worn down hotel, with this creepy basement in it. I love all the set pieces in this movie. They're fantastic. The hotel on the interior is so spooky looking, but it's at the same time, it's like one of those places where I kind of want to be there. You know what I mean? Like I want to walk around and explore this place and see what's kind of all going on. So like, I love that. And this movie just as a whole has this just really particular kind of creepy, eerie, dreamy, nightmare-esque vibe to it. Like it feels like a dream. Like I know that's very kind of vague and very kind of cliche to say, but that's really the vibe I get from this movie. Like every time I watch it, it's one of those movies that I can just I could almost put it on and not even have the sound on and still kind of watch it and be kind of invested in it, because it's pretty to look at to me. Like, and there's just a lot going on visually, in this film that it really keeps my attention. And that's just a personal thing. I mean, of course, if I watched it without the sound on, I wouldn't get the amazing score, but, all the gore, the set pieces, the set design, I guess you could say, all that stuff. And of course, like I said, the plot is so kind of just out there and kind of silly and goofy, and doesn't really make a lot of sense, sometimes. Like it still works just fine. And I like that this one actually has sort of I guess you could say, nihilistic type ending where, like, the heroes fail at the end. They end up going into the void and disappearing forever. They are sucked into this void, and allegedly the gates of hell have been opened up, and the dead are now walking the earth. So I really like that aspect of it too. I always really like a bummer ending when the heroes don't really win. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoy this movie. It is probably one of my favorite Fulci movies, if not my favorite for sure, because I find myself more than any of the other ones going back to this one. I think another really high contender for this movie that I watch a lot is probably New York Ripper. I go back to that one quite a bit because that's sort of my go-to Fulci giallo flick. I mean, he's done a couple other ones, but I love New York Ripper. That's a fantastic movie, and I'd love to actually talk about that one too, and maybe I will at some point. But like I said, this is the second film technically in a trilogy. So if you want to sit down and actually watch these all back to back, like I said, the only kind of connecting piece between these movies is the theme of kind of the like hell leaking over into our world. And of course, Catriona MacColl, she is kind of the mainstay of these three movies. She's kind of the main thing that connects the three of them. And I think she's fantastic. I think she does a great job in this movie. But she also just kind of, she's not the greatest actress of all time by any means, but I like her. And I think it's just because I'm used to seeing her in these films. But this movie, I fell in love with it from the first time I ever watched this. As soon as I did watch this for the first time, I streamed it because, I was kind of having a hard time finding a DVD for this, and then I finally did, thankfully. But as soon as I found one, as soon as I watched it, I was like, I've got to get this. I mean, like, I was like, this has got to go in my collection. Like, I fucking love this movie. I don't think this is going to be for everybody. I think that this is just going to be really for like hardcore Fulci fans. And I've even met some people who are Fulci fans who don't really care for this movie too much, because again, it's just kind of nonsensical in a way, but like honestly, a lot of times Fulci movies are just kind of like that. Like some of them don't really, but to me they don't really have to make sense, and the plot can be a little wild and kind of out there, and that's part of the charm of the movie and part of the reason I like it, because again, it's just kind of like something I can put on and just sit back and just kind of lose myself in the kind of the craziness of what's going on in this movie. I don't know if this is out of the trilogy. Like I said, we get City of the Living Dead is kind of the first one in the trilogy. Then, of course, this movie, The Beyond, and then we get House by the Cemetery. I don't know if this is my favorite of the trilogy or if it's the strongest of the trilogy. I mean, I guess you could say that. I don't know because I really, really like City of the Living Dead a lot. That's another big, one of my favorite Fulci movies. I really like that one, and I actually really like House by the Cemetery quite a bit too. I like that one for different reasons, though. I mean, that one's a little bit. I'll talk more about that whenever I actually cover that movie because I want to talk about that one pretty soon, and just get this trilogy out of the way because this is something I've been putting off for a while, but this is definitely a just excellent entry in the series. Like I said, I don't know. I'll probably save that for the House by the Cemetery review. I'll rank the trilogy what I think is best. From least to best. Maybe I'll do that. If you want to check this movie out, I think it's on Tubi still. That's where I watched it for the first time. I highly recommend you checking it out if you are a diehard Italian horror and diehard like a Fulci fan. I can recommend it to people like that. But if you're just a casual, enjoyer of horror films, I don't really see everyone really liking this movie, which is understandable. Again, I get that. I'm not faulting anybody for that. But I love it. It's fantastic. I find myself again going back to it all the time. So I like it. It's great. And if you are a gore fan, like an Italian horror gore fanatic, nobody does it better than Lucio Fulci. And I think that this movie delivers on that, and then some. So I mean, I can recommend it on that merit. But anyway, that has been The Beyond from 1981. Again, directed by the masterful Lucio Fulci. I think this is definitely a masterpiece of his. Stay tuned for the next episode. As always, have a great night and goodbye.